Hi everyone, my name is Miami Gold. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am here with the trailblazer, the legendary. She does not need an introduction, but the world's first female roadie, Miss Tanya Douglas. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you. I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on the show. I've been looking forward to it.
Of course, we're so excited. Like your story is amazing and just like everything that you've done is legendary, top tier. So, we're just going to hop right in. So, how'd you get started in music?
Well, it was something that I was always interested in. I mean, as a small child, I'd listen to music constantly, and that was kind of like an escape for me, like a bit of a talisman. I'd lock myself in my room and listen to my little radio and do all that sort of stuff that kids do. And as I started, getting older, like 11, 12, and my life started being really, really difficult, it was a safe place to land for me. So it became really important to me as an empowering kind of thing. And when I ended up being put into a boarding school, our only spare time was a Sunday night. We had about 3 hours when we weren't going to church or whatever. And that's when we just cram in as much music as we could. So from that, I actually ran away from school and ran to a festival. There was a festival happening after I'd been told at the age of 11 that I wasn't allowed to go to Woodstock. I tried, but I wasn't allowed. And everyone laughed apart from me. I cried terribly. But so when I was 15 and I heard there was a festival happening, just, several hundred miles from where I was, it was like, this one's doable. No one's going to stop me. I'm not going to tell anyone. So I just ran away from home. So I ran off to a music festival and just never came back.
Wow. That's that's crazy. That's something that I would do too. So much respect to you. So you've clearly been in the rock and roll scene for many of years. What changes have you seen in the genre over the course of your career?
Oh God, everything. I mean, when I first started, it was just going from being very basic to all of a sudden exploding and leading up to what we have now.
Mm,
And it's basically the generation of people that I worked with who were my mentors. Everyone was probably about 10 years older than me,
mm,
for decades in the industry. It was like I was like the youngest person. It's like, how can I still be the youngest person? But it was just the level of work that I was doing and the people I was working with. But these people are the ones that actually created, designed, and trailblazed what
mm,
is now the industry,
mm,
because they're the ones who built the aluminum trussing. They're the ones who built the crossover PAs. They're the ones who ingeniously came up with converting it motors so we could do rigging and things like that, and
mm.
building stages from scaffolding. So it's changed dramatically, and I do talk a lot about that in great depth, actually, in my book. So it's like it's an evolution. And as I was growing in the industry was growing as well. Because I started in 73, 74. So the 70s, 80s, 90s were huge leaps and bounds in the industry. And before even technology caught up, we were doing stuff that people were just blowing their minds. So it was a really exciting time to be working in the industry. I mean, now there's nothing, unfortunately, but up until now,
Mm.
it's more now focused on video and that sort of technology, AR technology, and all that sort of stuff. Everything else has pretty much remained the same.
Nice. So you mentioned the many changes, but the industry is still the same when it comes to the ratio between men and women. So what's it like being a woman in the rock and roll scene?
Well, the ratio is a little bit better now because I was it. I was a little lonely out there. It's like, hello. So consequently, I ended up being very much a tomboy, because that's what I had. That was my role model. So I just acted like the guys, drank like the guys, swore like the guys, and that's how I kind of survived until I got my skills, strong enough,
Mhm.
for them to go, whoa, hang on a minute, she's really good at this. So now they say, it's very difficult because we're not unionized.
Mhm.
So it's very difficult to know what the percentages are. But from talking to different organizations around the world, I know a lot of different people,
Mhm.
and we've guesstimated, including all of the departments, it's probably 12% maximum of
Mhm.
the industry. And that would include like wardrobe, makeup, catering, which to me aren't necessarily roadies, but they are part of the production, you
Mhm.
know.
Got it. So, how do you feel like, besides unions, how do you feel like we can get more women involved in the rock and roll scene?
Well, funnily enough, since people have started going to school and taking courses, I'm a bit of two minds with that, but it's something that's happening, so it's not as though it's going to stop.
Mhm.
But I mean, the good thing about it is that people are accepting it. Like parents are actually paying for their children to
Mhm.
go to school to be, well, it's now a technician. It's not called a roadie, but I mean, for 30 years it was like, yeah, but when are you going to get a real job? It's like, God damn. Okay. So at least it's legitimized now. And the funny thing about that is there's a lot of females doing these classes. And I think what it does is it makes them more comfortable for a transition because they're actually being guided by, a mentor, whether it's a teacher or, whatever the conditions are. So I think they're being braver and they're going, well, I can do this too because it's actually schooling, so it's like an extension of schooling. It is schooling. They do, graduate and all that sort of thing. So I think that's opened the doors a bit. Now, whether that transfers over to the actual live touring industry, that's still yet to be seen. There are, like I say, there has been an increase in females doing the job,
Mhm.
but not the percentage that's coming out of college. And it's difficult right now as well because we're coming up to a second year of graduating students
Mhm.
who are graduating into an industry that doesn't exist at the moment.
Mhm.
So that's really difficult. So that's hard to tell who'll stick with it and who won't.
Nice. And so, did you have a mentor rising up, or did you just completely do it by yourself?
I was fortunate enough to have several mentors,
Mhm.
and they were all incredibly respected and good in their fields, in their chosen fields. And I'm not sure why they actually mentored me. I mean, they must have seen something in me that they would to give their time and their knowledge and their patience, because God knows I was a bit of a rat bag. But so, I think that once people got used to kind of seeing me turn up every day, it was like, God, she's here again. I think it's, oh, God, she's at this show as well. What's going on? I think I was a bit like that stray kitten that you feed once and then it never goes away. So what are you going to do with it? You may as well keep it. And if you're going to keep it, you best teach it the rules. But I had some incredible mentors. I mean, really renowned professionals.
Nice. So, you have been in the industry since 1973. So, do you have a favorite story from the time when you were a roadie?
A favorite story. It depends, is it PG-13? Is it R-rated? What's the deal?
You're good. You can tell us whatever you tell us.
I mean, it's favorite stories. I mean, every single tour is different, and every group of people is different. I mean, you build relationships and you work with a team if you can. It's
Mhm.
really good to do because you know how each other work and all that sort of stuff. And once that happens and you all get to know each other, you tend to get into trouble because you're all working hard together. So you decide you're all going to play hard together. So, I mean, as far as stories go, um, I could do an Iggy Pop story, I suppose. Let's do an Iggy Pop story. And Iggy Pop, so, he's a sweetheart. You've got to love him. He's a really intelligent man. I mean, a lot of people look at him and think he's just crazy, but he's actually not. He's a consummate professional. Whether he's rolling around in glass or blood or whatever it is at the time, he's still, he knows completely what he's doing. But I was with Iggy and on the TVI tour,
Mhm.
and he had with him as a backing band, he had most of a band called MC5.
Mhm.
which is a really well-known punk band from years ago. So that was Fred Sonic Smith was in charge of that, and Fred Sonic Smith at the time was dating Patti Smith. They
Mhm.
just coincidentally had the same last names. We used to joke that's why they got married, but but that wasn't the case. They were madly in love with each other. But through all of this going on, Iggy had just previously spent 2 years working with Bowie, and
Mhm.
they'd become really good buddies, you know. So they did everything together. They hung out together. They got in trouble together. They dated the same girls together. They did all sorts of naughty things. So, but they had a falling out, and so Bowie was on Iggy's last prior tour with him, and Iggy thought he was going to be on this tour, but because of the falling out, he didn't. So it was kind of a weird vibe on the tour that, you know, Iggy was kind of like always expecting David to at least show up to a show, you know, and be there to support him. And of course, he never did, you know. So, you know, but he'd act out and he was being a brat and all sorts of stuff. But we finally get to the end of the tour, and we're in London at the Music Machine, which was a really, you know, well-known venue at the time. It held about 1,500 people, and I think they jammed about 2,000 in there. And we had 3 shows over 4 nights. And so the first night, my position was front of house, you know, and I'd call the follow spots.
Mhm.
And so I'm front of house. The lights are being called to dark. You know, it's like house lights out, and I'm talking to the follow spot operators, getting them all queued up and ready. And then all of a sudden, over the intercom, it's like, Tana, you need to come backstage now.
Mhm.
And it's like, what do you mean now? The house lights have just gone off. No, 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 no. He's supposed to come on stage. I'm not supposed to go to the stage. What the hell's going on? And they're like, he's locked himself in the dressing room. He won't come out until he sees you. It's like, are you kidding me? No, this is not what happens. No, you know, and they're going, you got it. He won't come out. He's locked in there. And it's like, God. So it's me fighting my way through like 2,000 hot, you know, leather clad, sweaty punks, you know, because the only way onto the stage was downstage left. There was a little staircase that you could get. Otherwise, you had to go outside and back in again, you know. So here's me fighting my way through. And I finally get to there, and they see me and they drag me up. So I'm there. And then I have to go backstage, and I'm charging up the stairs, and then I'm running down this hallway, and it's packed with punters. There's managers, there's record label people, there's leaders. It's like, what's going on? There's a whole show going on backstage without everyone, you know. And it's like, and I'm like, what's going on? I've got to, you know, the house lights are out, you know, and they're like, yeah, we know, get him out of the room quickly, you know. And so I bang on the door, you know, James Osterberg, like I'm his mum. James Osterberg, get out of this dressing room. What are you doing? And he's like, opens the door and he peeks out. And he's got this big grin on his face. He grabs me, pulls me in, shuts the door and locks it.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, what the hell are you doing? Wait, what? Stop. And he's gone, that showed him. I said, them? I'm one of them. What on earth are you talking about them? I'm supposed to be doing a show. He's like, oh, Joe, no, no, no. I want you to meet someone. It's like, seriously? What, you know, and he's holding this mirror with powder on it and 3 lines on it, right? And a rolled up note. And he does one, he passes it to me, and there's 2 left. And he's gone, I want you to meet. And he walks over to, and I see this person in the corner, but I'm not really looking at him. I'm standing looking at this, what he's just handed to me. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? You know, it's like, and so I decided, my logic at the time was, I'm going to do both. So screw this other person, whoever he is. He's a
Mhm.
bad influence. Then it's done, and we can get on stage. So and no chatting, no nothing. So I did. I did both. And just as I looked up, Iggy goes, "Hi, Tana, 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 meet David Bowie." And I'm like, "Oh," I just done his line. It's like, "Oh." So I look at him, I give him the mirror, give him the note, grab Iggy and run off to the stage.
Oh my goodness.
So things happen. You know, things happen that you have no control over whatsoever. Other things happened in that show, but that's a whole other story. But multiple things ended up happening that night, and it was, you know, definitely one for the books.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. That is wow. So,
Yeah.
who was your favorite band to tour with?
That's a hard one as well. What happens is anyone who's toured, done multiple tours will know this. You
Mm,
get emotionally attached to the individuals and
mm,
their personas and their characters. And that actually affects how you like their music. It really does. If someone's a really good person, they're fun to be with, the show's great fun, it's great. If someone can be like an incredible performer, but if they're like miserable or they're rude or they're stroppy or something, then it doesn't matter how good they are on stage. You don't want to be there. You don't want to work for them, or it takes away the pleasure from doing the job. So it's interesting, really. I mean, AC/DC, I was with them when they were really, really young. We were all really, really young. And, they were just such a good bunch of people, so down to earth. And that just hasn't changed with them. They've stayed that way throughout. They've got an amazing work ethic. And I thank them for that because I firmly believe that's where I got my work ethic from working with them. So, they're a favorite, they're really good. There's other bands, like Chili Peppers are always fun. Jane's Addiction was always fun, a little bit out there, but fun. Always had a good time. And, Pearl Jam's a good band. They're a good bunch to hang out with. And different artists. There's an English band called Status Quo that I was with for 4 years, and they're just a wonderful bunch of people as well. So to say one, I can't say one. Because it's different with each case. There's ones that you definitely don't want to work for again, but there's multiple ones that you do really like and look forward to meeting again.
nice. So, why did you feel like it was important to write your book and tell your story?
Well, it's funny because several people approached me asking if they could do it.
Mm,
And I had no idea what they were talking about. It's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And they're like, well, you've been mentioned in this book and this book and this book. And it's like, no, I didn't know that, but I know. So, I spoke to a couple of different people but from which got me curious, which got me interested. And it was about a decade ago that people started mentioning me as the original female roadie. You know what I mean? Before that, it didn't really, it hadn't really registered either one way or another. I didn't think it was anything necessarily worth talking about. But it seemed more and more people were getting interested in the fact. And so I thought about it and I just sort of realized that, if anyone was going to tell my story, it should be me. So that's how Loud came about. That's the name of the book, Loud,
mm,
Loud. And, it's a journey, it's a girl's story of wanting more from her
mm,
childhood, but having a bad childhood and just wanting to get out of that and wanting more and seeing that there's more out there in the world and not taking no for an answer is a lot to do with it. And also it also is hand in hand with the evolution of the industry. So you get to see how the industry grows as you get to see how my career evolves also. So and there's a lot of interesting characters apart from the famous celebrities, musicians and stuff. There's a lot of interesting characters that you meet along the way. So yeah, and I think it's interesting because people don't know what we do for a living. They really don't. I mean, they're starting to get it,
mm,
and over the last, during COVID, there's been a lot more press about, that because we've fallen through the cracks and we're not getting any benefits and all that sort of stuff,
mm.
that people are asking, well, why should they? What is it that they really do? And all this sort of stuff. So it's been interesting from that point of view, and there's a lot more groups online and we're the ones who are creating this new technology so you can have live music during this time. So it's not as though we're just sitting back doing nothing. We're working hard as always and trying to evolve with whatever climate we get stuck in. So that was the original reason for the book. And it seems it needs to bring awareness as well to it's a really stressful job, and it has an incredibly high suicide rate. I don't know if you're aware of that, but they did a survey in Australia actually, and this was before COVID,
Mhm.
and just over 19% of the people they spoke to said that they'd considered suicide within the prior 12 months.
Wow.
And that was before COVID. So, I mean, it's a lot of pressure, you're away from home, you're away from your friends, you're away from your family, you don't eat well, you don't sleep well, you're exhausted all the time. And it's a dangerous job, So, I mean, there's other jobs out there that are also, fit that criteria, but, people don't realize that it's like that in the music industry as well.
Nice. And I love that people are like really transparent about like going through like self-harm because a lot of the times many people don't know that the industry is stressful. They just see like the glitz and glam. It's just like it's real emotions and people are going through real things. So I love that everyone's being open about what they're going through.
Well, it's taken a really long time to get that to happen because we're alpha characters. We're strong people. We don't like being told no. We don't accept that we can't do something. So when something goes terribly wrong, we don't talk about it.
Mhm.
So it's, to me, it's such a positive thing that people are finally opening up and talking about it. But we lost a couple of generations of professionals
Mhm.
by people not opening up. So, and because of that, people are like, well, how come so and so's dead? How come so and so's dead? Well, he killed himself. He killed himself. Well, what do you mean? And so you have to explain to people that this is what's going on. So I'm really happy that there's organizations around the world now that are actually helping out with that. So it's a good thing.
Nice. So your book, you've probably gotten a lot of reactions, and I'm really big on reading autobiographies, so I'm gonna be highlighting every chapter. But what has been your favorite reaction from your book so far?
um, just how positive everyone's been about it, and how they've responded to the darker chapters, the things, the more personal, darker side of it. People have been really understanding and really caring about it, and that's quite touching, because you're writing, you don't know, you're on your own, you're writing a book, and it's like, should I put that in there? Is that too much? Shouldn't I put it in there? But with the story that I wanted to tell, I thought, well, if I'm telling things about other people, I have to be brutally honest about myself.
Mm.
So I think what's really, really puts a smile on my face. And a lot of people write to me, which is just, I had no concept of that happening, but, through social media and stuff, but they reach out. I have a website, which is, tanadouglas.com, and that has a contact thing. And apart from other social media, a lot of people reach out on that, and they'll do a little letter about how, it helped them, or, how they were really glad to learn these things or know these things, or they knew someone, who used to do it. And, so I mean, it's really quite touching, the responses actually. It's puts a big smile on my face.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It is, yeah.
So you are a vessel of wisdom. So what is the biggest lesson you learned while on the road?
you know, Looking back, you're constantly learning lessons on the road because you have to think quickly. There was no health and safety when I was doing it. There was no consideration, like, we had a rigger fall out of the roof
Mhm.
and land literally on the stage right at my feet, and he's just fallen 90 feet out of the roof. And it's like, I mean, we're working around him. We couldn't move him, and we had to be at the next show the next day, So, I think, what I've learned is that now it's become a huge money industry. But the good side of that, which I think is bad, because it's taken a lot of the personal, feeling out of it, and there's people who are incredibly talented, but just because they don't look right, they're not getting, the kudos that they're supposed to get, and other people are getting prefabricated and churned out on television shows. And I don't know, it's just all gone a bit mad for me. But I think the good thing about it is there is now health and safety measures. There are people you can go to if there's something wrong, and say, look, this person's acting strange. I think he's under a lot of pressure. We need to help him, because because like I say, it is a dangerous job, and you get fed every day. It's really good now. And showers, they have showers. We had all that towards the end, but I mean, we went probably at least a decade without anything, driving ourselves, no no rest, no hotels, no nothing, no security, no nothing. I mean, it was the Wild West out there originally, so it was very difficult. But from becoming legitimized into a billion-dollar industry, some good things have come from it, and for the audience as well. I mean, they get amazing productions. We can spend that money. We used to have to do it on I mean, we'd come up with huge, like, whether it's Pink Floyd and the Wall, the original Wall, or, whether it's, Elton John putting on a huge show or whoever it is. But we'd have to pull that together on the smell of an oil rag. I mean, there was no budget, So we'd have to be, it was all down to ingenuity. How can we make this happen? How can we make it look fabulous, without spending any money because we don't have any money? You know what I mean? So, that side of it's different now because they have $1 million budgets and it's all pre-organized and this is what it is down to the 10th, but it's still, the people who work in this industry, they're there for really one reason. They're there because they love music,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what keeps us all together, and it really is, you have to be part of a crew. You can't be an individual, you can't stand alone out there and you won't last. Either you'll be incredibly unpopular or you won't last, you'll get sent home, because we all just rely on each other so much out there. So, that's the good side that's still there.
Nice. So, what advice would you give to a young woman hoping to get into touring?
Okay, well, depending if you've come through some sort of schooling or not,
Mm,
to be honest, I don't think I would give much different advice either way because you still have to get the hands-on experience.
mm,
So it's all well and good. You might have done a 4-year course and learned how to do something in a studio environment. But, the first thing I say to people, who come out of these schools is, okay, what field are you in? You're in lighting. Okay. All right. So we're 2 hours late for the load in. This is a scenario I give them. We're 2 hours late for the load in. There was a problem with the trucks. So the trucks finally arrive, and your tour manager says to you, okay, we've got to cut the system by a third, lose 1/3 of your system. You
mm,
can only put up 2/3. How do you do it? And they all go pale and fall over and faint and scream and cry, and go, well, no, you can't because it's a system that's designed for, and it's like, no, 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 no. This is what you have to deal with. This is what you have to learn. So the advice I give is find someone who's knowledgeable, attach yourself to them, learn as much as you can, and, production companies are great for this. They'll take on interns,
mm,
because you can't be an intern out on the road. It's too dangerous. You don't know where you're standing. There's things happening above you. There's things happening beside you. It's the insurance. It's not worth it.
mm,
So, find a production company, go in there. And, you might think you want to be a lighting person,
mm,
but you might find all of a sudden that you're really interested in video, and video is amazing.
mm,
Learn both, because the more you learn, the more options you have for being hired, So, and if they, even if they only want a lighting person, but video as well, and they see that you're accommodating that other crew, then you're valuable.
mm,
Your value goes up, so it's all about working amongst a group of people and sharing knowledge. Anything share it with people. Anything you want to know, ask, you know so that's my advice, and be prepared to work hard. You're not going to come out of school, get a pair of white gloves and start operating a sound desk or a lighting desk. It's not going to happen. Maybe at your local little theater, and if that's what you want to do for the rest of your life, that's great. Someone does that. But if you actually want to tour around the world and do this for a lifelong career, you're going to start at the bottom.
mm.
And you need to, because it's important not to just know how to do something. It's really important to know why you're doing it that way. And that's where the cutting the system in half or a third comes in. Because if you know why, then you know how to change it, you know?
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
So we're gonna hop into our final question. So we have the book. I'm hoping for a movie or docu series. Speaking that into existence, um, what is next for you?
Well, I'm working on a project which is actually the history of production down in Australia, actually. So once COVID gets out of the way and they can open up again, that's what we're looking to do. So it'll be like a living history. Um, I think NAM has started doing something like that over here, but it's going to be slightly different, and it's going to have a residence in Melbourne, in Australia. I'm also completing a writing certificate at UCLA. I've got one more chapter of that, which isn't bad for someone who didn't graduate high school. I read away too soon. And and I'm also, writing, still writing. So I have another story in the works. So, we'll see where it all ends up.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna get that. I'm gonna I'll follow you on Instagram, but I'm definitely gonna get that. Uh Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to the legendary Tanya Douglas. Her story is incredible. Make sure to get her book Loud because you need that in your life. I need that in my life because I'm gonna order that next. Thank you so much, Miss Douglas. I really do appreciate it.
That's my pleasure.